My name is Tim Bailey. What follows is a story fragment, the opening part of a much longer tale I hope to finish someday. I am presenting it here in this forum in the hopes that I might make contact with like-minded individuals who could aid me with constructive criticism. I also would like to find a person of artistic skill who might be able to render drawings of the people and events described within. Now, I'm the first to say what follows is not some great literary masterpiece. It was written in the style of my favorite sort of writing, the pulp scientific romance yarns of the 1930s. I hope you will enjoy what there is of this, and if you wish to hear more of the fantastic adventures of Jason Howard, please let me know by comments or emails to the address below. The two guards snapped to attention at the sight of the colonel's gold braid, their rifles held ready for combat. The colonel's aide, Lieutenant Hock, stepped to the guard desk, signing in the two. The colonel, a much heavier, older man, frowned, his black eyes looking over the hangar they stood before. "You have locked down the base," he said. "Not a question." Hock swallowed, moving back over to the colonel. "As best we could, sir. But we know reports of the ship have already gotten out. We've gotten demands from the Central Command for photos and reports, sir." Colonel Jing Pu frowned deeply. The Chinese military, each base commander, ran his command like a mini kingdom, resenting any outside interference. "It gets worse," Pu grunted. "The Americans are railing to the United Nations, wanting respect and chief observers. And they are, as far as we know, unaware of our guest." Bach waited as one of the guards unlocked the man-sized hangar door. "I would say give him to them, sir. I have talked with the man for hours, and I would say he was a complete madman if not for the way he arrived." Colonel Pu looked at his soldiers, at their sleek black rifles. "If not for that ship, I would say kill the foreigner and be done with it. But I will not throw away such a chance for scientific advancements," continued Lieutenant. Inside the large Air Force hangar, a silver hovered over the cement floor. Thick iron link chains tossed over it and bolted into the ground. The sphere was about 300 feet in diameter, the outer surface looking more like featureless smoked crystal rather than metal. 100 or so feet away from the soundless craft, a table and 4 chairs was set up. Seated there were 2 people, one a Chinese soldier in a mechanic's grimy white coveralls, the other a big Anglo-Saxon in an outlandish outfit that, despite having seen photographs of it, still took the colonel by surprise. The man wore a leather and chainmail kilt around his hips, with sandals tied with crisscrossed laces strapped to his calves up to his knee. He had on a belt studded with gemstones, with a holster for a pistol and a scabbard for a short sword, both weapons having been taken for study. As they neared, the Chinese soldier jumped to attention to salute the colonel, the European standing up more slowly. The lieutenant introduced Sergeant Bailey to Colonel Pu, explaining that the soldier had done a tour of duty in America as part of his engineering studies and had been drafted into the job of translator. "Is he an American?" Pu asked the sergeant, looking at the giant who loomed a foot above the Chinese men. "Or a Russian spy playing games with us?" The sergeant blinked his eyes. Sir, as far as I can tell, he is an American, but he uses a slang that is strange. He claims to have last been on his home soil in 1937. A ridiculous statement. I have not been able to shake him from, sir." Taking one last look at the American, who crossed his powerful forearms over his heroic chest, the colonel looked at the floating sphere. What about the ship? Does he explain its mode of flight, its power source? Sergeant Back sighed. Oh, he has explained it, sir, but it's all nonsense. The thing's crystal matrix is supposed to tap into ethereal energy. This not only cancels the effect of gravity, but can be used as a directional force. It tells us nothing about its construction, since it's supposed to be the remains of a lost culture. The use of the craft has been puzzled out by cause and effect experiments. Turning back, Pooh took a seat with slow motion to command the attention of all in the hangar. He motioned for the giant to sit and said through the sergeant, "Tell me your story." Chapter 2. The American claimed himself to be Jason Howard, second son of a famous American industrialist, heir to the Howard Dynamics' vast empire. At 25, Howard tried to enlist in the military after the attack of the American Navy base Pearl Harbor, but had been blocked at every turn by his father's agents. Finally, Jason had decided to slip out of the country to attempt to join up with the British forces. Using cash, he had booked passage on an old steamer ship running cargo out of New York, using an assumed name and a simple disguise to give Senior Howard's private detectives a slip. He was halfway across the ocean in the old rust bucket Sally Forth when one night a bright pair of glowing discs flashed overhead. Running to the upper deck along with any other members of the crew that had not already reported to station, Jason looked up to see streaks of energy speed from one disc to the other, bright explosions rocking the craft. The two soared and swooped over the steamer ship, moving at impossible speeds, diving to almost touch the choppy ocean waves to pull up at near right angles. One of the bright green lances of light flashed over its target and hit the Sally Forth amidships just below the waterline. The ocean boiled and smoked where the green energy hit the metal hull plates, searing to glow hot from the fantastic heat. The ship was under attack. To its credit, rolled away, trying to put distance between its attacker and the unarmed steamer. But it stabilized its flight path in doing so, and the second disc slipped right into line. Twin green shafts exploded against the rear of the second disc, destroying almost half the vessel in a horrific impact. The disc flipped and fluttered into the sea like a coin tossed into a wishing well. Moving automatic by way of their training, some of the steamer's crew lowered a longboat, jumping aboard to effect a rescue of any of the down disc crew survivors. As it lowered, Jason managed to leap aboard the boat, pulling on a life vest over his gray turtleneck sweater. We could see the downed disc, half smashed and bobbing in the water, Howard said to the Chinese sergeant. It wasn't glowing now, and we could see it was made of silver metal with cracked and splintered crystal panels inlaid along the downward curved rim of the thing. There was a ragged hole along the raised dome in the center of the disc, and as we pulled oars for it, the shape of men were climbing out of the smoking wreck, trying to cling to the disc. The other disc, it's glowing a bright blue, floated slowly around, drifting over the longboat, and then the sinking ruined craft before banking away. The other disc, glowing a bright blue, floated slowly around, drifting over the longboat first, then the sinking ruined craft before banking away. It picked up speed as it turned and zoomed back over the boat, the wake of its displacement airwash almost swamping the lungs of the boat. As the rescue craft approached the Sally Forth, the disc swooped upward. As the disc approached the Sally Forth, it swooped upward, when green flashes blasting free from its underside. This time, the green bolts engulfed the old steamer ship's pilot house, exploding it out with enough heat to sag a hole in the rear smokestack. The men on the longboat could only stare in horror as more green lances stabbed away from under the disc as it slowly hovered, blasting away at the upper deck of the Sally Forth. Chapter 3. They were making a game of it, Howard said angrily. Colonel Poole could see the fire in the Americans' eyes. The noble-born, they call themselves, or Laram, were targeting the men on the deck of the Sally Forth. Those discs, what they classify as a space skiff, have the firepower to destroy a ship the size of the steamer in one blast. Instead, they sliced it to pieces until a beam hit one of the boilers and the whole ship erupted into a back-breaking explosion. He made an expanding motion with his hands. She disappeared in seconds after that, those Laram bastards firing into it the whole time. It was the cries of the people on the sinking disc that snapped us out of our shock. We got back to our oars and were bumping against the disc as the first of the survivors slipped into the water. We were pulling them from the ocean before we noticed that they weren't exactly human. Oh, the basic body was the same, central trunk, limbs, and a head, but their skin was tinted to green or blue, with thick manes of hair that ran down the back and across the arms from head to neck. We managed to pull 7 out of the drink, Howard continued, all men wearing long-sleeved tunics and trousers, the ship's crew. There were more climbing out and down the disc. These were smaller figures that I guessed was women. But that damned second disc, the Star Sword, came booming up and over, a wide wedge opening along the rim. The armed guardsmen, the Tharsha, were boiling out. They attached cables to the rim of the skiff and lowered themselves like mountain climbers. They wore the kilt and shoulder armor of Toresian warriors, armed only with short swords. Another look of disgust on his square face. At the whim of their Laram masters. The Rush, except for their commanding officers, are all selected from the underclass, not even considered real people by most of the other Toresians. The Laram used them as playthings. Sergeant Ballard looked uncomfortable as he translated that for the colonel. The Chinese government, in spite of its imperial ideas, was highly stratified, with some levels of the ruling body being more equal than others. Most of the Tharash fell upon the disc, taking their blades to the crew in bloody slaughter. Some came down on the lone boat and attacked us. Now Howard gave a savage smile, but found out the hard way that they weren't pushovers. Now Colonel Poole snorted, glaring at Howard as Bali translated his words into English. Oh, so these swords-carrying aliens fell to a boat of unarmed Americans because your people are such great warriors? Howard's own face hardened a bit. More, the Tharash were used to dealing with slaves and other underclass who won't fight back until a sword was in their guts. We overpowered the few that landed on the boat, and some of us who had taken their swords charged the sinking disc. I cut down my second Tharushian on the rim of the disc when the flying skiff blasted our longboat into flaming splinters. That was enough of a distraction that I got buttonholed by 2 Tharusian thugs. Howard craned his neck and Pooh could see the thick white line of a healed scar in the man's bronze skin, running from behind his right ear down head and neck into the shoulder. Earned my first Tharusian battle scar, though it damn near killed me. I was lucky that the Tharush were not used to Earth's gravity, let alone finding on the surface amidst the waves. When I woke up, I was chained to the wall with two other Sally Forth crew members, the only ones the Laram deemed interested enough in taking captive. There was Larry West, a big black man from Salt Lake City, who had worked below decks as a coal stoker, and Turk Arlo, a burly Eskimo who was part of the cargo crews. Both had happened to be above decks when the attack came, and like me, jumped aboard the longboat. Colonel Pooh looked over to Lieutenant Bach, speaking in a hushed voice. He spoke without the sergeant translating until a nod from the colonel. These men, Bolly said, they were taken because they were of different races than you? Partly, I suppose, since the Laram think themselves as masters of bloodline and like to classify people. Also, I think it's because both men fought well. We were likely taken as representatives of human warriors primarily. We hung there for what I had found out later was days before a pair of Laram came to inspect us. Howard leaned back in his chair. My first encounter with the Laram crafts. Both were men, just a hair above 5 feet tall. They were skinny, with bony shoulders poking out of their red satin togas. Both were blue-skinned, with one having red and silver-streaked hair, the other as bald as an egg. They came in and wandered about, checking us over with the odd devices they kept clipped to their belts. As they got close to us, I noticed for the first time that they both had tiny feeler-like antennas sprouting out of their foreheads, wiggling and twitching as they talked in using language. It was one of those little features the underclass don't have. After checking us over like beef cows on the hoof, they took blood samples with glass tubes from our elbows. They left chattering away, no doubt discussing our possible sale price of the slave block. Howard made a noise. At least we were considered important enough that the Laram ordered us fed. A grimy little labak, a slave, came into our little prison chamber several hours later. He couldn't release us from our chains, but he did give us water and fed us a couple of handfuls of the gooey substance the Russians use as basic rations for the class. Olmed. It's a kind of plant that they inject with some synthetic chemicals. It seems to support humans as well as the Russians. At least we didn't waste away. These creatures, he said. Sorry. You are saying they took you to their home world. What is it called? What star does it circle? Howard blinked in surprise. Well, their name for it is Throsh, Colonel. But here on Earth, we know it as Venus. It was at this that Colonel Pooh's own anger exploded. He slammed an open palm onto the table, jumping up to stab at Howard's chest with his index finger like it was a weapon. The guard standing next to the hangar door inside pulled of his rifle, training it on the big American. That is ridiculous. You think we are fools? Venus is a volcanic ball of choking toxic gas, with atmospheric pressure greater than the bottom of the ocean. We know there's no life there. The Russians landed unmanned space probe back in the 1970s. Howard frowned as Sergeant Bali translated. He placed his own hands on the table, speaking in a toneless rumble. Instead of simply translating, Bali hissed back at Howard, who spoke some more, nodding to still standing Colonel. What is this? Colonel Pooh demanded. What are you saying to him, Sergeant? Explain! Bali could barely meet Pooh's eyes. Sir, he says he can only relate what he was told to him by the captors. Later, when he returned, he saw for himself a ship slipping out from the clouds of Venus. He returned to Earth in a span of time and places at 2 months. looked at an expression on Howard's face. "That is not all, Bally. Out with it, Sergeant!" Looking miserable, Bally added, "He says, by the customs of the Chertal, the Throshian people he seems to have been accepted by questioning the honesty of his word, he should cut out your heart." "Savage!" Lieutenant Locke said, imitating the colonel by jumping to his feet, pulling forth his sidearm pistol. "Colonel, let me— Ah!" The lieutenant screamed as Howard reached out, engulfing Bach's wrist in his giant hand and squeezed it. Bach dropped the gun and Howard grabbed it up and aimed it at Pooh's chest before anyone could move. For 3 beats, all 4 men in the hangar remained frozen. Then Howard flicked up the gun, bending the short barrel in a display of superhuman strength, and tossed it onto the table. Chapter 4. Colonel Pooh came close to ordering the guard to shoot Howard with the ship with possible strength. "What can you tell me about this skiff you were on?" he said, by way of volley. "Do they have a fleet of such ships?" "On the whole of Throsh, there is only 1 skiff craft now left. When I was taken first from the planet, they had been 5 still active. As with the sphere craft I used to return, they are the product of the ancient lost race of Throsh. The Loram have puzzled out some of their working, and can even build simplified airships, but the secrets of their construction are unknown. When the last skiff fails, the Throshians will be trapped on Venus till they recreate the technology. Tell us of Throsh. It is ruled by one people, these Loram, or are they many governments at odds with each other? The Loram are the ruling class, the noble born of the Empire of Achach. They have the largest population, but there are others, with 2 non-humanoid yet self-aware species that live in their own remote kingdoms. All war with each other. The Loram, with their far more technologically superior weapons, treat such combat as entertainment more than anything else. The Achach Emperor remains remote and detached. A council of senior Loram seen to the day-to-day operation of the Empire. Turk Anlo, Larry West, and myself had been taken by a Throshian group of warriors who had been trying to recover a stolen skiff. That they destroyed such a valuable craft when they could have simply recaptured it is to show how degenerate the Loram masters had become. Who stole the skiff? Drew asked. One of the non-human aliens? Howard shook his head. I later learned it was a group of Mabak rebels. The slaves were hoping to use it to free more of their friends who reproduced these machines' technology. When we had reached Venus, Throsh, as they call it, the 3 of us were separated. Of Turk, I never saw him again, and even after years, could not find out what happened to him. I hope he is well. Larry was bought by a high-level city minister to be trained to be part of his personal Throshian guards. I was vended to a Throshian businessman, a Chertal merchant who covered most of the northern continent in his own trade caravan of airships. I was to be a cultural oddity, an example of extraterrestrial life from distant Haldar, their name for Earth. How do the Throshians know about planets, develop space travel? With the thick covering of clouds in their sky, they should not know anything about the outside universe, Pooh said. Alchak scientists created a telescope that uses frequencies outside of visible light spectra, developing the technique to see beyond their clouds, the very limits of our solar system. These Shatar, you said, you spoke of them before. Tell us of them, Howard. Howard flexed his right hand, as if wanting to feel the sword in hilting it again. The Shatar are one of the oldest of the Alchak classes. They are the free workers, men and women of personal wealth and property, but without the standing in the royal court, like the Laram. The emperor sometimes promotes a Shatar to the ranks of a Laram, but if a Laram loses his or her standing, they lose all, and if they survive, become a Bak. The Shatar who bought me was an elder Tarashian named Throm Ibam. He was only 4 feet tall, with an enormous belly that almost made him look as wide. He had long arms with pudgy fingers and very clever hands. Old Ibam's short, stumpy legs were nearly bow-legged, and he got about by way of a powered wheelchair-like device. The motor of his chair was his own design, one of the things he sold. He took me in hand, spending long hours during our travels on one of his airships, teaching me one of the most common languages of the Throsh, the trade tongue. These airships, interrupted by way of valley. These that the Thorashians built themselves. How do they work? There is a type of crystal that grows around the edges of one of the great Thorashian seas, where the water laps against the rough stone. These crystals naturally vibrate in such that they are energized with ethereal energy, repel the force of gravity. Using a wooden frame correctly placed in the water, it is possible to grow a wide, thick square of the crystal. A collection of 4 or 5 of such wooden frames, crystals can lift 10 to 15 tons of cargo. A mild electrical field applied to the crystals causes it to temporarily discharge, losing its anti-gravity ability for 5 to 6 hours. The Tarashians would build ramshackled raft-like vehicles atop these panels, using fabric sails like those we use on earthly boats to both steer and provide motivated power. Ethereal energy, Valley said, at Pooh's direction. Explain it. The concept means nothing to us. That might be my fault, Howard admitted. You have to remember, I am trying to relay ideas from an alien language. As I understand it, every large mass in the universe, every star, planet, or sizable asteroid creates energy by its very existence. They twist and stretch the fabric of the universe, and it is that ethereal energy, the crystal matrix, vibrating in sympathetic response. Space-time, Lieutenant Back said to Colonel Who, the German physics about gravity being distorted in space-time. He's saying these crystals can tap that power. Unlimited energy that these Venusian fools used to lift junk airboats. Who looked at the floating sphere. Substance of Howard's craft, the Colonel said to Bach. It must be the same crystal. What do we know of it? Bach looked to Valley. Some of our engineers tried to take scrapings, samples for scientific tests. The surface seems indestructible. They did examine it as best they could, but could only say it seems to be a crystal matrix of some non-reactive substance. No acids we could access affected. Who had Valley said to Howard. That sphere, is it made of these water crystals? As he pointed at the floating craft. Howard spread his hands. We don't know. It is an ancient artifact. I can tell you that the crystals of the Thorashians grow today do not have a fraction of its tensile strength. I placed the question before old Ebb once, and he believed a secondary or even third layer of other crystal substance was blended to the first, what they call Chakaria crystals. Valley added himself to the Colonel. That sounds like the way we make metal alloys, sir. The other crystal or crystals could be wholly synthetic in nature, or even the same Shatari, but tempered in some way, maybe grown over a longer stretch of time. After Pooh gave his permission, Valley told Howard this. He said, "I know Thracian alchemists who have experimented for centuries without solving the riddle. Eben's own motor design was based on his own attempts." Pooh stood. "I wish," he said, Sergeant Valley translated, "to go inside your sphere ship, Howard. Open." Jason Howard stood, his great square head crowned in shoulder-length black hair, crossing his muscular forearms against his bare bronze chest. "He," Valley said nervously, "refuses, sir. He said if he grants you access to the vessel, you might, steal it." Pooh gave a sharp smile. "Impossible, since by landing within our country, this craft has become the property of the people of China. One cannot steal what one already owns." "Translate that exactly, Sergeant." When Valley finished, Howard barked a loud laugh and sat down. "He, wishes the Colonel luck in opening his new vessel." Pooh snapped his fingers, and the guard came forward aiming his rifle, but standing well outside of Howard's long reach. "Open it," Pooh commanded. Chapter 5. With another soldier brought into the hangar to back up the first, the men moved to the floating sphere. Standing close, Howard reached out his right hand to the crystal, touching 3 different gemstones encrusting his belt with the fingers of his left hand at the same time. Where he touched the sphere, and an oblong opening formed, the sphere lowering to just touch the cement floor. As Howard stood there, the Chinese soldiers' guns cocked loud, the threat clear in spite of the language barrier. Lieutenant Bach surged forward, a borrowed pistol in his hand. Inside the silver sphere was black as pitch, and even darkness that made the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. He pointed the gun shakily at Howard's head. "Turn on the lights," Bach ordered. Howard smiled. "It doesn't work that way," he explained by way of Valley. "The lights turn themselves on. They use body heat as a trigger." Bach waved Howard back with his gun, talking to Pooh. With a nod from the colonel, the lieutenant ordered one of the soldiers to the sphere. Holding out his rifle with face wide with fear, the soldier forced himself into the sphere. As his booted foot crossed the threshold, the light came to life within the sphere. An 8-foot-tall, centipede-looking creature roared within, jointed taloned legs lining both sides of its segmented body, the limbs clicking in time. Its giant head, twice the size of a bowling ball, was split in half by 2 melon-sized orange compound eyes, or a gnashing set of razor sharp mandibles. The soldier screamed in terror as the monster lunged, scooping the human up its rows of armored limbs. At that exact instant, Howard leaped, his great strength allowing him to cover the distance of the second soldier, even as he managed to spray a handful of bullets from his cheek, but splattered harmlessly against the sphere. Howard struck, his fist almost smashing through the guard, the man dead before he hit the ground. Recovering, Bach shot at Howard, pistol barking, short, echoing booms. Howard charged the lieutenant, throwing a bloody spot on his shoulder, the only sign of the giant man had been hit by the bullets. He crushed the struggling Bach's throat with the grip of his right hand. From the sphere, sliced parts of the Chinese soldier tumbled up, with the Russian creature hanging on to the body section of the trunk. Colonel Pooh screamed for reinforcements as he raced for the door of the hangar. Losing blood, Howard let him go, eyeing the still frozen Valley as the former American headed toward the sphere. As he closed to the doorway, Howard called out in unearthly language. The monster centipede clicked, back, tossing out the last mangled bits of the soldier's body, and moving back to the howling front. That is as far as I've gotten so far. I hope you've enjoyed this fragment, and please comment. Thank you. Goodbye.